Maheu and me. The first will be and present the title is Research, Science, Technology and Innovation Policies, the European Union example and the role of higher education, training and research. So please, the floor is yours.
Society neither, so it's not for me a difficult situation, but I do appreciate having the invitation. So I said, no, listen, here's what I can do. I can speak of something that I know a little, which is science, technology, policies and their impact on higher education, science and technology within countries. And if that is okay, I would be very happy to make this presentation. I have been coming to CSS and to this university since a certain number of years now, but that doesn't make of me an expert on Georgian higher education either. So what I would like to do is to speak to science and technology policies, and perhaps after I would have been describing this big picture, we may come to some possible questions that could be of interest for the future of Georgian higher education and future of science and technology within the Georgian society. So that's the title of the paper. I shall focus on 4 different dimensions to address this topic. First of all, I would like to look at the last decade's planning efforts that were made by the European Union with respect to science and technology policy, and from the point of view more precisely of higher education and research. So I will briefly describe the science and technology innovation planning within the European Union because it is an example of the most recent generation of policies regarding science and technology. And perhaps allude to the fact that these most recent generation of policies are related to the context of the socially distributed knowledge production system, which is emerging more and more strongly. I'll try also to give some evidence based of the strategic importance within science and technology policy, but also within the building of nation of those people that are highly trained as researchers. Because you will foresee policies now are pinpointing more precisely to these kind of people within societies. So it means that it becomes very important the question, where do Dr. Holders come from? And what is the role of research universities and with respect to Dr. Holders? These are the 4 dimensions that I will be trying to cover with this presentation. So the European Union planning that we have with respect to higher education and research has 4 different very important moments. You cannot see too much the bubble on the right-hand side of the screen, but it is an article that deals with the influence of these planning on the development of doctoral education. And that is a paper that I've been preparing with colleagues and that will be published in 2013. So which are these moments? There are 4 of them. And the first one is the Bologna process that lots of persons know of. What is the Bologna process? I'll go very fast for that. It is the curricular transformation to harmonize European degrees, training cycles, and credit systems. It has also improved student mobility within Europe and internationally, strengthened the quality assurance mechanism and practices within the European area in order to improve the standards of higher education. It makes also a clear emphasis on core disciplinary coded knowledge that should be transmitted through university training for sure, but also an attention is given to transferable skills in order to prepare people to work out of academic marketplace. So the Bologna process was more much in line with those objectives. But then came the second moment, the Lisbon strategy for the creation of the European research area. This Lisbon strategy position paper was designed in 2000. Apart from the European Union framework programs for research and technology development that support lots of research targeted areas within the Union, there is a focus on the human resources to create the European research area. The key assets for this, for the research and the development is the capacity building of human resources. This position paper puts really the emphasis on that dimension. It proposes to increase and have more mobile human resources. So the emphasis is introducing much more women within the science and technology field and introducing young researchers as well and trying to push them to move within Europe, within the member states of the European Union. It has also strategy to expand researchers' careers to many different sites and networks that would strengthen the area supranationally as much as possible. So that was the second moment of this planning. The third one is an interesting moment. It has been through a meeting of the Minister of Education in 2003, and they looked at the missing link within their policies. And what was this missing link? Doctoral education. They put the emphasis on the fact that there should be, through doctoral education, a much more tight link between, on the one hand, the European higher education, and on the other hand, the European research area. So this mission link became officially recognized. And a number of steps were suggested to reach an improvement of more innovative doctoral education. For example, more mobility program for students, Erasmus, but also more targeted programs to have students moving. More cross-country cooperation for programs and training. They were proposing that there should be doctoral schools, like doctoral colleges, that would bring the member countries to share their capacity for doctoral education. More interdisciplinary program, and the emphasis on, again, transferable skills. Try to strengthen the graduate education, quality, and competitiveness. And then they recognized the fact that students should be seen as early stage researchers where a certain number of rights and duties. So this is an important dimension, not quite often mentioned, not even seen by observers, but it was an important move that the ministers of education have done in 2003, and they have that accepted by the European Commission and its manifold instances. The fourth moment is the European initiative Innovation Union, designed in 2010, that has 7 flagship initiatives. One of these initiatives is to strengthen every link in innovation chain from blue sky, curiosity-driven research to commercialization. And again, it did imply that it should have all the incentive to complete the European research area through research-targeted priorities and more collaboration between states, member states, within research programs and research cooperation. It implied also to strengthen not only education quality, the common approach to improve disciplinary and transferable professional skills. That common approach even tried to design what should be the disciplinary skill that should be taught at the level of the university, concerning graduate education and lateral education, which kind of transferable and professional skills should be also taught. And there were also the capacity and incentive given to improve knowledge and research networks and clusters between member states and out of the European Union countries. Now, when we look globally to these tiny moments within the European Union, what we see is that represents an example of planning that is really in line with what in other countries our most recent generation of science, technology, and innovation policies. A lot of countries have been trying to go in that direction. The European Union indeed, but these policies first appeared in North America, actually, years and years ago. And they have a certain number of characteristics. And these policies now are taken on by emerging countries. India, China, Brazil are also looking at these kinds of policies. And when you look more closely to those policies, you see that they bear three main characteristics that I will like to pinpoint. It is important to make a comment about these policies of science and technology. They are a very strange product because on the one hand, before they are designed, countries have to collect data. And if they are well done, those policy documents, they give you lots of information about the state of the art. And quite often about the state of the art concerning higher education. But at the same time, they twist the data in the direction of desirable future. It is what policies are about. Which are the three main characteristics? One important dimension in the first one is people do matter. What does that mean? Well, previously, states were using fiscal and economic incentives. They still do that, put a lot of money within the system. But now they have more and more the orientation of saying, well, money is important, but qualified people is the key asset. And there is really an emphasis more and more strongly nowadays on the dimension of people who matter. So there are no knowledge production, no science and technology transfer without highly qualified men and women. That is an important dimension. People that are nationally and internationally mobile. I use here the expression of symbolic analysis. Again, the bubble doesn't show up too much. This is an expression that comes from the book of Robert Reich, former Secretary of Work of Clinton. It is on the capitalism of the 21st century. And Reich pinpoints to the fact that within modern society, the most important new quote-unquote class is the class of symbolic analysis. Those people that do have the skills that are needed to make the economy, the political systems, the well-being of the society workable and functioning as much as possible. So first characteristic of these policies, when you look at them globally within many different countries, people do matter. The second characteristic is people with competencies. And for competencies, actually, there are two dimensions that are very important. The first dimension of competencies which kind of competencies should these qualified people have? The answer of those policies are, well, specialized coded disciplinary knowledge. This is an important component of the competencies they should have. But on top of that, interdisciplinary problem-solving knowledge and skills are very, very important. People should have an openness towards the other disciplines that are important to control in order to be better professionals. You should have also professional and transferable skills. Again, this is coming back. What does that mean? Well, capacity of teamwork, capacity in communication, leadership and management. These are the kind of competencies that people should have. The other dimension important about competencies is at which level. Which level of competencies are important. Basic requirement, university, tertiary A and B education. This is the OECD classification about tertiary education. It means the level of university program. The A, tertiary, are the long programs. The B is rather short programs within universities. So that's the basic. But more and more the policies say, well, that's not enough. The most important level of competencies people should have is advanced research training. And then they say very openly, countries should produce doctorate holders as much as possible. The emphasis should be on doctoral education. The money should go towards doctoral education. Master's programs are important, but not as much as doctoral education. This is really, when you look at all of these policies in many different countries, Canada, the USA, emerging countries, that's the emphasis nowadays. Let's put the emphasis on doctoral education. The third dimension and characteristic of those policies is clusters. What do clusters do? Well, cluster would match in spaces and present time the people that do matter and the competencies that are important. CSS is a cluster. It matches people and competencies. That is an important cluster. Now, what about those clusters? Well, they have a certain number of characteristics. First of all, they are defined as being local and regional, cross-organization clusters. They should bring within some local space and regional space the capacity of universities, but also the capacity of national governmental labs, corporation research units, community research assets. There's lots of research assets within hospitals, for example, or within community organization, within different districts of civil society. All that should be part of the cluster. So the cluster should be locally a cross-organizational dimension. But then, good clusters should be globally extended. They should be cross and supra-national clusters. It means that you have to join other people. Actually, the most developed countries of the OECD, for example, know very, very clearly that to be internationally competitive, you must first of all be internationally a partner of another country. So to compete internationally, you must partner internationally. That's the key dimension to clusters. So these are the three important dimensions of those most recent generation of science and technology policies. I think I'll bypass this one. Save some time in the discussion if we need. We could come back to that. That is the slide I bypassed is the socially distributed knowledge production system. I think that we could discuss that. I just wanted to mention that this socially distributed knowledge production system is really the background dimension of those most recent science and technology policies. So let me come to the evidence-based role of highly research-trained people for nation-building capacities. It's one thing to have policies But on the other hand, do policy really mean something? And the emphasis that is put on people and people with highly trained research capacity, is that really something that is evidence-based important for society? So there are proxies that could show us the importance of that dimension. For example, the work on, this is a bubble also that is difficult to see at the bottom there. It's a text done by two human capital economists whose name are Philippe Agion, who works in Harvard University, and David Cohen, who works in France. And they showed, taking a lot of data on the countries that are at the frontier of science and technology. By frontier of science and technology, they rank the countries that are more innovative scientifically and technologically, and try to see which kind of human capital resources they have. First of all, at the bottom, it has to be people that have a training within a university training. That is the biggest requirement. But more importantly, they saw large differences between the more innovative countries, and these were the countries where they were having within their national population advanced research training people, people having docs and postdocs training. And these were really the most innovative countries. Then after them came less innovative countries, countries more oriented toward technology transfer, and they were really having less research trained people. They were having people with university degrees only, or sometimes master's degrees, but not of the level of highly research trained people. So that is the first evidence base that these policies really get to something. The second one is the case of doctoral education. We can, for doctoral education, look for the OECD countries at two factors: research intensity on the one hand, and doctoral degrees awarded by countries on the other hand. Is there a relationship between the two? If you take the OECD countries, and here, these graphs are rather difficult to look at. The graphs, there are three graphs here. The one on the left-hand side is the rank order of research intensity countries. So at the top of it, you see, for example, Sweden, Finland, Japan, Korea, etc., and it goes to the bottom to Mexico. So that's the percentage of research intensity within the GDP, the gross domestic product. For example, Sweden is 3,668, Finland 354, and Mexico is less than 1%. The middle graph is the number of number of doctoral grades given by these countries, yearly grades given by this country for a certain period of time, 2005 to 2008, as a percentage of the national group, national age group that is normally the targeted group to get the degree. And you see, for example, that Switzerland is at the top, Portugal, and then Sweden, etc., and it goes again at the bottom to Mexico. And the last graph on the right-hand side is the graph about doctoral in science and engineering. Again, it's the number of yearly graduates of the doctoral level within countries. And again, it goes from many different countries. At the end, you see Hungary, Turkey, Mexico. At the top, you see Portugal, Switzerland, Sweden, United Kingdom, Finland, etc. What we've done with these graphs is that we calculated correlation, rank order correlation coefficients between research intensity on the one hand and doctoral graduates on the other. When you try to calculate the rank order correlation between research intensity and engineer and natural science graduate, the coefficient is positive, but not too impressive. But if you calculate the same correlation coefficient for research intensity on the one hand and doctorates in all disciplines, it is very strong, statistically robust, and quite impressive. So what it means that countries that are really recognized for their capacity in research and technology by their research intensity tend to rely upon graduates of all fields. Quite often people say, well, natural scientists and engineers, that's the top. Well, it is important to have, but the correlation is much stronger when you look at all disciplines, which is good news for humanities and social sciences, by the way. So this is also another proxy that proves that these policies of science and technology have some evidence-based impact on nation building, and they are somehow getting to tackle important issues within society. My last point, where do doctorate holders come from? Well, this is really not this question in a certain way, or insofar as the answer is concerned. It's so obvious that people will say, well, what's the issue here? They come from university, and indeed, they come from university. And actually, it's very important because a good part of those people, that can come back to university. Mind you, in more advanced countries, more and more, and now we are at the level of about 60% of PhD holders do not come back to university. They work elsewhere in society. But in emerging society, or in society that has less mature education system, certainly these people are very important, but you need them within universities. So they come from university, and that is for sure. But the most important point is that not any one university, actually. Mostly they come from research universities, which is quite different. And then it raises the question, what exactly is a research university? I would like to argue that a research university is really a distinct type of university within higher education system. And I'm not the only one who would pretend that. If you look, for example, at the Carnegie Foundation definition of a research university, they would point to a certain number of characteristics. Research universities are universities that have large number and an important breadth of undergraduate programs. That is, first of all, very important to mention. Secondly, they have also graduate programs. It is a priority of the institution to develop graduate program. And it is within actually these research universities that you will find graduate schools. The graduate school has an important function within research university because they are quality control faculty, umbrella faculty for the overall institution, but they also provide services to member of faculty and students within the graduate education sector. So, second to mention, priority to graduate programs, and quite often it is transmitted through the role of graduate schools within North America. In other countries, you have doctoral schools. In France, you have doctoral colleges in Germany, and you see more and more in many different countries, there is really a trend of developing the model of the graduate school. Third characteristic of a research university, it has to have a minimal threshold of PhD granted on a yearly basis. The threshold is quite high. It would be normally 50 to 60 a year. For some universities it is high, for others it isn't high. But it is a threshold that means something. You have to have a certain level of adoption of PhDs. And also, you have to have a yearly minimal threshold of fundamental research grant that is provided to member faculty that they have got through the Research Training Council. The threshold is important too, could be around $20 to $30 million of fundamental research, not contract research, fundamental research that goes through peer assessment processes in order to get these. Recently, in October 2013, in Hefei is a city in China, there was a meeting of research universities on research university, and they signed a statement, 3 or 4 pages, on the 10 characteristics of contemporary research universities. The statement has been signed by the AAU. The AAU is the American Association of Universities, around 100 universities. There are 2 Canadian universities within the AAU. The group of important Chinese university, 9 universities, the C9 group, 8 Australian universities, the G8 group, and the LIRU. LIRU is the European Union League of European Research Universities. They signed that statement, and now it's being circulated to different countries to ask them to join this meeting. It gives really strict characteristics of what is a research university. I won't go into that, but these characteristics are in line with the Carnegie Foundation of Research University. Now, what are the research universities within North America? Let me give you 2 examples, the American one and the Canadian one. In the States, you have around 4,000 universities. You can also reduce that number to something like 2,008 if you take the university that gave at least a bachelor's degree. But yeah, around 4,000 universities in the States. The Carnegie Foundation, its definition, comes up with 300 research universities in the United States. And the category they are using is very intensive research university doing doctoral education, about 100 universities. Intensive research university that do doctoral degrees too, around 102. And research doctoral university that are giving the PhD program, another 100. So altogether that brings them to 300. Now, a researcher whose name is Geiger in 2004 wrote a book on knowledge and money. And there is another subtitle there to the book, which is The Paradox of the Marketplace and Research Universities. He took 200 of the 300 American research universities and came out with results. Those 200 universities produce 75% of all American research, publication, and research grants. But, which is important, they give a quarter of the bachelor's degree. And they give a third of the professional degrees. And they give 68% of PhDs. So research universities are really multiversities in the sense that they have multiple missions. It's not that they are only concentrated on research and graduate training. They have this large basis of undergrad education as well. If you look at the Canadian situation, we have around 100 universities altogether. We have a group, a G15 group, which is the group of research universities that meet quite often. The G15 universities, research universities in Canada, represent 74% of all fundamental research grants that circulate in the country. They produce 41% of all bachelor's degrees, 51% of all master's degrees, and 76% of all PhDs. So what it means is that there are within higher education systems some institutions that do have a peculiar specific mission, which is to do graduate education. It doesn't mean that the other institutions aren't important, but these are distinct institutions, and our mission is to produce graduate education and research. So I'll finish with this dimension about the national higher education system's 2 iron laws. First of all, university missions are differentiated. National higher education systems have many different layers. You have institutions that are doing with, bachelor's degree. In the States, in Canada also, we have liberal arts colleges. They are high quality institutions. giving mainly bachelor's degree, sometimes master's degree, but not that much. They really concentrate quite a lot on bachelor's and high-quality bachelor's degree. They have other universities that are mainly master's university. You produce master's degree mainly, with bachelor's degree as well. And you have the book universities that are research universities. So when you take the higher education system, you must admit that there are different missions taken care of by different type of institutions that are all within this national system, but they have different missions. That's the first law. The second one is that the research university missions are concentrated within a tiny number of national higher education institutions. Only a tiny number of them really meet the criteria of being research university. Why? Two obvious reasons. Talents are rare. You know, it's impossible to think that you will have students interested in doing PhD studies and high-quality researchers in absolutely all institutions, universities that you have within the country. You know, talents are rare, so the way to be efficient about the way you train and use talent for the development is to try to recruit talent. The second obvious reason is that it costs a lot. Resources also are rare. Lots of analysis have been done, and research and graduate education within university costs at least 6 times what undergrad is costing within an institution. So you must, if you want to get a good research university, invest. And to invest, you must have the resources. And not all the resources, not all the institutions have all of the resources that are needed to be key research university. This is totally impossible. So these are really the two iron laws of higher education system development. I'll stop here and be very happy to discuss as we move along.
So thank you.